Hi everybody, welcome to Sorting Myself Out. My name is Ryan Hulsapple, and today we're going to talk about journey versus destination and how meditation can help us on our path towards meaning and awakening. Now we're going to have to define several things, but right off the bat, let's take a look at this cliche. It's about the journey, not the destination. Everybody's heard it. I'm not quite sure where it comes from. It has an Eastern feel to it, a Zen feel, Buddhist feel, a Taoist feel perhaps. And the point of this is that if you get too caught up in what you're trying to achieve or where you're going, you miss all the details on the journey along the way. One of my favorite mentors, Tom Brown Jr., one of the things Tom Brown Jr. talks about is moving toward a goal or a destination versus moving to. Now, this simple distinction, to versus toward, while it might seem mundane and ridiculous, is actually fairly insightful, because what it really says is when you're going to something, everything between you and that goal is irrelevant. You just want that thing. So we're not open to the learning or the adventure on the way. But if we're moving towards a destination, then there's a whole plethora of opportunities and experience, perhaps fun, perhaps learning from failures and learning from experiences that can happen that we would miss. So there's opportunities that are missed when we put the blinders on and just say, okay, I want to achieve this goal. I want to get to the top of the mountain peak. I want to make, this much more money this year. I want to achieve these goals. And then in that journey, we lose something because we never really paid attention. On the other hand, we also know, and Dr. Jordan Peterson is pretty good at explaining this, that the consequences of not having a goal or not having an aim are also threatening to our existence. They're threatening as an existential crisis that's looming over us. If we don't have a framework upon which we can get our bearings with reality, then we're very liable to fall into a nihilistic sense of chaos in our lives, where everything is meaningless and we don't feel that we have a purpose. And I think it's fair to say that the feeling of having a purpose or needing to have a purpose is almost a universal human need. We need to feel as if we are contributing something, we're learning something, we're achieving something. All of these things fulfill a basic instinct within us that allows us to have peace and harmony and fulfillment in our lives. So the balance is journey and destination. So the North Star is a really good analogy for this. That you're moving toward that North Star. That's your potential. That is your guiding post. That's where you want to orient yourself towards. Now, along the way, you will change and adapt and face different landscapes and challenges that are going to change you, and they might even change the goal. Your journey could change your destination, or vice versa. You might decide that you halfway through a specific journey that you actually are meant for something else because of the learning that happened. You were paying close attention. You might have chosen one career path, and then because of the experiences and the openness you had to those experiences, you decide, hey, this isn't really for me. I'm going to come back to the drawing board and move in another direction. But none of the learning will happen unless we are open and present. So how can meditation help us? And what is meditation? Is meditation sitting in the lotus pose on the floor with your hands up like this, in this mudra, as they call it? Well, not necessarily. Meditation to me is a very vague term, but it basically covers anything that involves focusing your intention and attention on a practice or process that brings you into a different state of being. Anything, any technique, whether it be yoga or Tai Chi, martial arts, mindful walking, breathing, archery, anything that can get you into a flow state where you feel that you lose that sense of time and you just lose yourself in the moment. and everything just feels right. It's just boom, you're in a trance. That to me is meditation. Now, it's important, I think, on a daily basis that human beings experience a state of trance. And there's many ways to get into these states of trance. For example, in Sufism, they have practices which is a mystic tradition, where they literally rock back and forth like this and chant, and that induces a state of trance. I think it's called zikr. For me, if I stand up and close my eyes and visualize and move like this, the repetitive stimulation activates the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system in your brain and body, which creates the synchronization of two different states of being within your neurology and puts you into flow. So you have this energization that happens within your sympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for your fight or flight response and your anxiety and anger and excitement and energy. That is adrenaline, a sympathetic nervous system. Then parasympathetic soothes and relaxes and puts you into this restful, they call it rest and digest. So what happens is when you're doing a deep trance-like ritual, where I would also consider it as meditation, if you do it for a sustained, consistent period of time and you get good at it, you will activate those two different pathways, and the sympathetic and parasympathetic will both be activated and put you into a flow state. So repetitive rhythmic stimulation. Now this comes from a book called Why God Won't Go Away, and it's basically on the science of mystic practices, of flow, of mythology. Why do these things activate within our bodies? And it takes a look at the neuroscience of all these phenomena. So that's that. So while we're moving towards our destination, our potential, whether it's little destination, like one goal is an example of a little destination. I want to finish my graduate school. Okay, that's a goal. And then there's big capital D destination, which is a higher self, the image of who I could be, as Jordan Peterson said, the North Star of my soul. It's the direction that I'm moving in to improve the composition of my being. How's that? Improving the composition of my being, stepping into the greatest possible expression of myself, and that is an image. I see an image of what that would look like, feel like. You know, how would my sensory experience be altered by that potential self? And when I picture that, I can see that. That's my goal. And then there's the little mini goals along the way, which are more about achievements, accomplishments, doing things. But the big goal is about being. How do I want to be? How do I want to feel? And what milestones along the way am I reaching through my action to indicate that I am making progress towards the improvement of the composition of my being? There you go. So part of that is getting into these flow states, these rhythmic stimulative states of being, where you are both simultaneously in a state of high energization and soothing. Okay, typically we are in either energization, fight or flight, high focus and energy, or rest and digest. But when you match those two, you are activating a state of being that is putting you in flow. And there are very many different ways to do that. I've recommended movement, trance work. Some people do mantras. Mantras are repetitive words that come from specifically the Hindu lineage and some of the other Eastern traditions and religions. Buddhism has lots of chanting practices where you repeat something over and over again, and it engages that. Remember these keywords: repetitive, rhythmic stimulation. It really drives something into your nervous system. Da 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 da. Om, om, Okay? As silly as it seems and sounds, that combination of movement and the use of your language, it's stimulating you in a very specific way. Now, other ways to get into the state, you can do it in silence and stillness, because stillness has a way of seeping into us if we learn how to access it through different meditation techniques. So it might just be a still meditation practice where you are just being here now, following the breath. There's many different techniques you can look up online that can also drive you into this state of openness and flow. So meditation, it has a lot of relevance on journey versus destination, and I would say not versus anymore, because they're not separate, journey and destination, because as you are doing, you are also increasing the quality of your being. So while you're going out and making the bread and doing the chores and accomplishing your goals, you're no longer beholden to a panicking stress response of heavy release of cortisol levels. You can actually regulate your nervous system more and enjoy the journey in a different way, so that you are empowered in that process of moving towards that destination. So meditation, it has a way of changing our relationship to space and time. It's not that physically the world changes around us. It's that our way of moving through it changes. Our perspective shifts. So suddenly something that was a burden now becomes an opportunity for learning. It just flips. It flips the switch and allows us to feel more spacious within, without necessarily changing the fact that we're in a traffic jam or that we have a deadline coming up. We still have to show up for these commitments, and we also have the opportunity to be in a state of synchronization and flow as we're moving towards that North Star. So I would say that journey versus destination, it's more journey balanced with destination, so that there's the perfect amount of tension that drives us into a flow state. I'm open, I'm meditative, I'm reflective, and I'm focused and moving toward that goal. So we're taking the openness and the goal-directedness, and we're combining those two states of being, and what that's creating is this greater whole, where you have both the feminine and the masculine polarities being constellated within your psyche. So you are literally achieving the greater balance. You're achieving the Tao, so to speak. At the right place, the right time, you're moving towards your goals. You have the masculine principle working through you, and you also have the feminine principle of openness, creativity, and flow at the same time. Structure and flow. The aim gives you the structure, the flow gives you the movement within the structure and the eventual fulfillment within that structure, and ability to move beyond that structure and leave it behind for a new one. And that's how we develop, that's how we grow, that's how we transform. We move through structure, we leave the structure behind and go into a greater paradigm and a greater way of being. If you can achieve journey and destination, your life will improve. Our lives will improve, because after all, we're all in this together, sorting ourselves out, attempting to move towards a life of improved meaning and enjoyment, hopefully. So, anyways, my name is Ryan Holsapple. This is Sorting Myself Out. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this small, short video. I am going to attempt to get more of these shorter ones out there. Life has been a little unpredictable as far as my schedule goes, but I really do want to continue doing this. You can support the channel again by liking, subscribing, or donating. Here is my website. There is the donate button right here. It'll be in the description. Of course, this goes to my partner and I. Mercury Black is fantastic on this channel, and the more that we get supported, the more that we will be able to provide you with this type of content. After all, we do have to pay the bills and so forth. Anyways, I will leave you all to the rest of your day. I hope you enjoy.